Hello everyone. So today saw the hearing by the Committee on Oversight and Accountability of the US Congress titled Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena Exposing the Truth. There were 4 witnesses lined up for today, namely retired Rear Admiral Tim Gallaudet, Louis Elizondo, former lead in the AT program, journalist Michael Schellenberger, who recently brought a secret program named Immaculate Constellation to the public eye, and Michael Gold, the former associate director for NASA. Let me share my recollection of the event. It will be a bit more chaotic as it's very roughly scripted, so let me just go through the notes. In her opening statement, Chairman Mays called for the need for transparency, invoked statements by Colonel Carl Nell, who stated that non-human intelligence exists, and mentioned that there were persons who tried to block the hearing from happening at all. The overall theme was the call for transparency, as I mentioned, and the need to dig to the truth regarding UAPs. She called out the error the All Domain Resolution Office on not doing its job and on its budget. Money leaking out from the system was also an important angle in that opening statement. An official document from Michael Schellenberger regarding the Immaculate Constellation program was read out aloud and entered into the congressional record. The other Congress members reiterated the need to study UAPs to improve transparency and to learn more about UAPs and what they are. Both Representatives Mays and Moskowitz mentioned that there were attempts at the hearing being blocked and that several representatives were facing persuasion aimed at not asking certain questions during the hearing itself. We could then hear the opening statements from the witnesses, a link to which on the Congress website can be found in the comment section. Chairwoman Mays started the question sessions with her questions regarding satellite imagery depicting UAP and advanced technology monitoring military facilities. Lou Elizondo may have been read into the crash and retrieval program or programs. Personnel injured during the Rendlesham Forest incident were implied as they received state benefits related to their injuries suffered during contact with UAPs. Special access programs were mentioned next by Mr. Schellenberger, who has multiple sources as his journalist sources. NASA was suggested to be read into the OSAP program already mentioned by several whistleblowers, and people read into said program. Representative Higgins asked about the sources of the Immaculate Constellation report, which were not disclosed by Michael Schellenberger as a part of him protecting his sources within the Department of Defense. Lou Elizondo was asked about the morphology of the UAP craft and whether shape indicates the point of origin, to which the answer was that it's possible, but the shape may also be dictated by the functionality of the craft. The physical impact of the craft was mentioned as well, including feelings of unease, electronics malfunctions, psychological influence on experience, and shared awareness with the craft. Representative Grothman asked about the Nimitz incident and whether the data on it should be withheld. Admiral Gallaudet said that there is no clear reason to do that, especially after 20 years. The Admirals was subjected by a long session of influence by the Aero Office, as he mentioned, when they tried to invalidate efforts presenting UAP as potential non-human technology. Representative Burchard asked Lou Elizondo how he would explain UAPs. The reply was that they are an enigma and a frustration by an order of magnitude. Lou worked at the US Space Force, and he added that there is no logical reason to withhold non-military information from the public. The topic of psychological influence was again mentioned at this point. Representative Higgins asked about the sources of the Immaculate Constellation report, which were not disclosed by Michael Schellenberger as a part of him protecting his sources within the Department of Defense. Lou Elizondo was asked about the morphology of the UAP craft and whether shape indicates the point of origin, to which the answer was that it's possible, but the shape may also be dictated by the functionality of the craft. The physical impact of the craft was mentioned as well, including feelings of unease, electronics malfunctions, psychological influence on experience, and shared awareness with the craft. Representative Frost examined the options of accessing more data which would allow better research of the phenomenon and its capacities, including NASA archives, while trying to strike the balance between transparency and integrity here. Mr. Gold vouched for NASA reliability in that regard. Representative Frost mentioned his tour at the facility where a private contractor runs research which is not disclosed to the rest of the facility controlled by the military. Michael Gold claimed that most UAP are probably man-made, while there is a small share of anomalies which cannot be explained this way. Representative Luna asked Admiral Gallaudet whether USOs can outpace submarines, and he said that this has happened and by an order of magnitude of speeds. He did not mention specific hotspots regarding transmedium objects and USOs, to which he had no data. Lou Elizondo was asked if the UAPs are piloted by non-human biologics. The reply was that they seem to be under intelligent control and anticipate actions of humans, including stalking. Lou was able to clarify more about the point of origin of the non-human intelligence and whether they are interdimensional. He mentioned physical characteristics displayed by the UAPs and that no human could withstand that capability, physically speaking. Representative Luna pressed the angle about the non-human beings and their sources and origin. Unfortunately, no witness was able to elaborate on that, as well as on their potential morality. The fact that this technology may be available to other countries was also mentioned. Representative Garcia asked if UAP evidence is concealed from the public, and to that question all witnesses said yes. When asked as to what they are, both Admiral Gallaudet and Lou mentioned that there is high probability that there is non-human intelligence involved. Representative Biggs asked Admiral Gallaudet about the deleted emails and thus vanishing records within the Department of Defense and the military, and all the witnesses about the ultimate purpose of overclassification and hiding information. Lou Elizondo mentioned information from his book that the reality of Cold War was the original reason behind this, as well as the general mentality behind the military secrecy following even that period later on. Triangular UAPs suddenly appearing over sea vessels were mentioned, as well as formations of metallic orbs swarming an F-22 fighter jet, boxing it, and I believe it forced the jet to land. Representative Burleson asked Lou Elizondo about the possession of technology by the Department of Defense. There is a report going through the Dobster indicating that there were attempts at collecting materials which were intercepted and blocked. These operations involved the Bigelow Aerospace Company, Lockheed Martin, and CIA, which blocked the transfer of unknown origin technologies dating back to 1950s. My quiet bet here is on the Kingman crash material or possibly Roswell, if the material was originally transferred to a private contractor in 1950s. Lou apparently knows who is in possession of this material but could not tell. Representative Burleson asked about the ability to provide biologics craft materials known to be of non-human origins. Lou said that these are still kept by the gatekeepers of the program he would be able to identify in a closed setting, but also mentioned that Arrow was tasked with this very job and failed at it. Lou is aware of collection of biologics of non-human origin. The biologics were collected before Lou was born, and the entire thing is possibly related to Lockheed Martin, which again ties to what I already said, that it's just my wild guess that it would be either the Kingman crash of 1953 Roswell or Magenta in 1933. He mentioned that communication in terms of semantics has been established with non-human intelligence, which is not trying to disclose itself as such and provokes responses from us. The connection between crash retrievals and the Department of Energy was also mentioned at this point. Representative Timmons asked about the connection between UAP activity and military installations. Lou Elizondo explained that it can be recon-type activity, surveillance, as well as simple observation as curiosity. The incident at the Langley Air Force Base was also mentioned, and whether it was known to the witnesses before the official press publication. Admiral Gallaudet mentioned he got to know this earlier from an article published by Chris Mellon. The increasing number and brashness of such incursions has also been observed. The question is whether this is an adversary nation or something completely else. Jay Stratton and the UAP task force were mentioned at this point as a unit studying the phenomenon from this angle. Representative Bobert again underlined the overclassification of information and the need to explain why this is the case and what can be done in that regard, especially in regards to the new administration to come next year. She asked about the link between non-human technologies and bioscientific programs allegedly run by the Department of Defense, and Lou mentioned that he cannot talk about this. Apparently there were mentions of manipulation of genetic material involving human and non-human materials aimed at enhancing human capacities, but this is widely welcomed with a big dose of skepticism. Transmedium objects were also the topic, and questions regarding photographing and other materials were mentioned here. Whistleblowers are reluctant to speak more openly about this and about the involvement of oceanic UAPs, however, and it was mentioned that their capacity exceeds the limits of our human technology. The questions went back to Representative Mays, who asked Lou Elizondo whether he was read into Immaculate Constellation, to which Lou said that he cannot speak whether he was read into or not into any SAPs, at least not in the public setting. When asked about the involvement of US government cooperating with other countries, including adversaries on UAPs, Lu said he cannot say much openly, but this seemed to be a possibility, or that this was hinted at. Various contractors and their involvement was mentioned, as their expertise covers different domains. Admiral Gallaudet mentioned multiple encounters with threat to pilots and safety issues caused by UAPs, almost leading to a military exercise of a carrier strike group being cancelled altogether. Michael Schellenberger was asked how to enable more whistleblowers to come forward. He said that he is able to go to prison to defend his sources, and that whistleblowers in general need much more protection than they are given now. When asked about non-human intelligence, Admiral Gallaudet said that there may be different life forms given our own earthly biodiversity. Lu's reply was a bit circular and that the topic required more study, while Mr. Gold mentioned that UAP as non-human intelligence may also be non-biological, as we can deal with hyper-advanced AI, and he mentioned that the final answer regarding the point of origin of non-human intelligence may surprise us all in the end. Chairwoman Mays tied it up very nicely here, concluding that if there is nothing to study, as the gatekeepers claim, why are there billions spent on a nothing burger? After this, we had belated questions from Representative Ogles, who last year touched upon the national security angle. This time he mentioned that it's obvious something is going on behind the scenes. Lu was asked if the activities increased around nuclear sites, and the answer was positive. The general security issues regarding military facilities and aviation were mentioned. Admiral Gallaudet concluded that these objects may and do pose a threat, and Representative Ogles mentioned that this is the reason alone which requires proper oversight over the UAP issue. He also mentioned that it is criminal overstep not to reveal a threat to the safety of both the military and the general populace in the ultimate scenario that we may be facing an existential threat from a non-human intelligence. The reactions of the community to the hearing were very mixed, from claims that it was a nothing burger to people floored by the statements, especially those who are new to the topic. Coming from a perspective of someone following the subjects, I personally can say that on the surface that there was not that much completely new said. However, I have caught many extremely interesting and important nuances and details here and there already, and I am sure that will be more coming in deep dives in the days to follow. I myself will try to make an analysis of the documents presented to the Congress this week to see what is there. Until then, take care, and I will see you soon in another video.